So we've knit a cuff, we've knit a leg, and we're ready to make a heel in our sock because we want to have a nice fitting sock. Now I'm going to show you how to knit the boomerang heel. It's also known as the yo-yo heel or the German short row heel. And that heel is knit over the half of your total stitches that you have on your needles. So these are the stitches that I'm going to work the heel on. These are the so-called heel stitches. Those stitches on the other half of my knitting aren't going to do a lot during the heel. They will be woken up in the middle of the heel for a very short intermezzo, but these are the stitches that are going to be worked on. And the very first round of the boomerang heel is very, very easy because you just knit across all those stitches from one side to the other. But then we're not going to knit in the round. We're going to turn our work and make a turned stitch. And that's something special that I'm going to show you once I'm there. So I'll see you back once I finished knitting this very first row. Also, this green thread here is a lifeline. I've just taken a blunt tapestry needle and put a piece of cotton yarn, a yarn that doesn't split very easily, through all my stitches. I did that so if anything goes wrong and I have to frog my work, then I can just put the needle back into the stitches with the green thread in it, and I can rip it out until I'm back again at my starting point. So a lifeline is a very good idea for someone who's making their very first boomerang heel. As I said, just knit across the very first needle. Half of your stitches all get a knit stitch. I'm working this heel over 30 stitches. So if you cast on 60 stitches, half of that is 30, and you're knitting 30 stitches now. If you're not a continental style knitter, you can also just do the throwing method and knit your stitches the way you want them. As long as they get knit, that's all that matters. But if you prefer continental style knitting, you just do it that way. I'm coming up to the end of the row now. So this should be 26, 27, 28, 29, and the last one is 30. I've knit my stitches, didn't do anything special yet. You can also see that my lifeline just went down one row. Now I'm not going to continue working in the round, but I'm going to knit back and forth. So I just turned my work, and now I'm looking at the wrong side of my sock. That's the part I want to knit now. Actually, I want to purl. But I'm not going to purl the first stitch because if I just turn my work and start purling now, I'll get huge gaps once I pick up those stitches again. So I'm going to turn a stitch. And how I turn a stitch is very easy and very confusing at the same time, because turning a stitch works exactly the same way in the right side and the wrong side row of your work. So that could be a bit confusing, but I'll explain it to you and I'll show it to you now on the wrong side and on the right side row as well. You always start with your working yarn in front. So the working yarn is facing you, and you're going to lift a stitch from the left needle with your right needle as if you're going to purl it. So I enter my right needle from right to left in the first stitch, and I slide that stitch off the needle. Now I'm going to put my working yarn not in between the needles, but over the right hand needle so that it comes to the back of my work. It'll look a little bit like this. And if you pull on the yarn, and you can see it very clearly here, the stitch underneath comes over your yarn, and it has two little legs. So the two little lines that go over my yarn here is one turned stitch. later on, when we're going to knit those turned stitches again, you have to treat those two little stitches or those two little lines as if they're one stitch. So I'm going to pull on my working yarn very hard. And because I want to purl again, I want to do the rest of these stitches purl-wise, I have to bring my yarn to the front of my work again. So I'll put them in between the needles, and now I'm ready to purl to the other side of the row. And I purl all the stitches. This one's easy. Just purl to the other side. Or if you're a traditional knitter, you purl them with your right hand. There's no wrong way of knitting. And if you're a counter like me, then you just count every stitch you knit in a boomerang heel, and every row you're knitting in the first part of the boomerang heel, you'll knit or you'll purl one stitch less than the previous row. So we started with 30 stitches, now I'm purling 29. Go back to the continental style. 28 and 29. There you go, you turn your work again. And as I said, turning a stitch on the right side row is exactly the same procedure as on a wrong side row. So you have to make sure your working yarn is in the front. So not in the back like this, but in the front. That's a bit weird because usually when you get to knit, your working yarn is in the back. But to turn a stitch, you need your yarn in the front. You do exactly the same thing as we did before. So you take your right hand needle, you take one stitch off purlwise, so you enter it from right to left. You take it onto the right side needle. You take your working yarn and you don't take it in between the needles, but over the right side needle and pull it firmly to the back. And then you'll see those two little stitches, those two little legs appear here just as they did on the other side. But now we're on the right side row, so the yarn is in the back. We don't have to take it back in the front between the needles, so we can pull on the yarn and keep pulling on the yarn, because if we let go, the tension will be less, and then you'll get huge gaps or little holes at the side of your heel. I'm pulling, and while I'm pulling, I start knitting those stitches. This time I'm not going to do 29, I'm going to do 28, which means that at the end of this row, I'm going to see a turned stitch, and I'm not going to do anything with that. Just going to let it be. I'll see you when I get back at the end of this row. This is 26, 27, 28, and this is my turned stitch that I made 2 rows back. And you can tell because it's 2 threads on the needle and it has a little funny knot at the side. So this is 1 stitch. It looks like 2 stitches, but because there's this funny knot at the other side, you know it's a turned stitch. So I'm going to let that be for now. And I'm going to turn my work again carefully because there's only 1 stitch on this needle. Then we're going to turn a stitch again. Actually, I'll show you how to do it when you knit with your right hand, with the working yarn in your right hand. The yarn is in front of you, so it's at your side of the project. We're going to take a stitch off purlwise. We'll put the working yarn over the needle and pull it to the back. So you can see there's the 2 legs appearing of the turned stitch. I want to purl back. I can't purl back with the yarn in the back, so I have to take the yarn in between my needles back to the front. And now I can purl back to the other side. And at the end of this row, I'm also going to encounter 1 turned stitch. I'm not going to knit that. I'm going to keep doing this procedure with turning one stitch at the end of the row until I have a third of the total stitches left over. As you remember, I started with 30 stitches, so I'm going to keep doing this until I have 10 stitches in the middle left over. This is an easy example because this will mean that I have 10 turned stitches on the left, 10 turned stitches on the right, and 10 unturned stitches in the middle. Just regular stitches that are waiting to be knit again. "25, 26, and 27. And then there's a turned stitch from the previous round, and you see it has 2 legs and a funny little knot on the end. I'm not going to work that now. I'm going to turn my work. I'm on a right side row, but I need to turn a stitch, so I take the yarn in front of the work. I take 1 stitch off purlwise. Take 1 stitch off purlwise, and I pull the working yarn over the needle to the back. And you can see 2 little legs appear and a funny knot on the back side. I'm going to knit, so I don't have to put my working yarn to the front. I keep it in the back, keep pulling on the yarn, give it a good tug, and then wrap the yarn so it gets a lot of tension. And we work back to the other side. And on the other side, we're going to encounter 2 turned stitches. And we'll just continue doing this until we have 10 stitches over in the middle with 10 turned stitches on the left side and 10 turned stitches on the right side. I'll see you back when I did that, so I can explain to you how we finish this boomerang heel, because then we'll only have the first part of the heel done. We'll have a second part to do. Okay, we're back. I just finished the first part of the boomerang heel. I actually have 1 more row to go. I don't know if you can see it very clearly, but there are 10 turned stitches on this side. And there are only 9 turned stitches on this side, and that's very normal. Don't panic if you count one fewer turned stitch on this side, because remember that we have to end the first part of the boomerang heel on a right side row, but we still have to start with turning 1 stitch. So I'm going to take that stitch as if to purl. I'm going to pull the working yarn over the needle. I've turned my last stitch, so now there are 10 turned stitches on this side. I knit the 10 middle stitches. 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then I'm going to continue knitting the turned stitches. You can tell there are 20 little legs on my needles, so these are 10 turned stitches, and we have to treat them as if those 2 legs are 1 stitch. It's a bit finicky, so you have to make sure you go into both of the loops. To try and show you better, into both of the loops. Doesn't matter if you go into the top loops or the bottom loops, because the hole is the same, but you knit into that. And once you've knitted, you have to pull your working yarn a little snug, a little tight, so those turned stitches don't make big holes. That's the second one. Give it a good tug. The third one. 4th one, number 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and the last one, make sure you grab 2 legs. That's number 10. Now we're going to finish this round, so we're not going to turn the work. We're going to continue on those stitches that have been resting for a while. We're going to knit all the stitches on the other needle, and we're going to end that round at the beginning of the heel needle, and then we're going to go for another entire round, because on this side you can tell here are some turned stitches that haven't been knit yet. So we finish this round and then we go one additional round. I'm going to continue working in the round, and you can tell this is my lifeline that I worked into my stitches, so I have to be careful not to knit into that. And I'll see you again at the end of this needle, so at the beginning of the next heel round. That's one round finished. I'm going to continue working in the round, so I'm pushing the turned stitches from the other side of my heel needle onto the needle. And I'm going to work for one additional entire round. Again, I have to make sure I work the stitches as if they were one stitch, so two little legs are going to be worked as if one stitch. You don't want to end up with double the amount of stitches that you started with. That's 3, 4, 5, 6, and you can tell every time I've knit one of those turned stitches, I pull on my working yarn to make it nice and snug. Two, 4, 6, 8, 10. So I've knit all my turned stitches, and then I continue working on the regular stitches and finish the entire round, not just the heel stitches, but also the stitches on the other side. So I'll see you back at the beginning of this needle when I finished the round. We're back at the beginning of our heel needle. So these are the 30 stitches that I've been working on in part 1 of the boomerang heel. Now we're going to do part 2 of the boomerang heel, and that's going to do exactly the opposite of what we did before. So we're going to work the first 10 stitches, and then the 10 middle stitches, and then one additional stitch. You don't have to be great at math to know that those are 10 stitches plus 10 stitches equals 20, and one additional is 21 stitches, so 9 stitches will be left over. After that, we're going to turn the work and turn that additional stitch, and from then on that stitch is going to function as a stitch marker, so we know up until where we have to knit plus one additional stitch. That'll become clearer after we did it, so I'm going to knit those 21 stitches. If you're working with another stitch count or another number of stitches, you just knit the first third part of your heel stitches, then the second third part of your heel stitches, and then one additional stitch. I have to keep count. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and one additional stitch is 21, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. So this is the right amount of stitches for this heel. I'm going to turn my work, and this additional stitch will be the first turned stitch of the second part of the boomerang heel. It works exactly the same way as before. So to turn a stitch, I keep my thread on the front of my work. I pass one stitch to the other needle as if to purl. The working yarn goes to the back over the needle, and I pull it tight. I want to purl back, so I have to put the yarn back in front of the work. Now I'm going to purl the 10 stitches in the middle, or a third of the number of stitches you have on your heel needle, and one additional stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then 1 additional stitch, which makes 11. And then I'm left here with also 9 stitches on the needle. I'm going to turn my work again. And if I start the next round with a turned stitch, then I'll have a turned stitch on this side. And I have a turned stitch on this side. You can see it, it's right here. So from now on, I'm going to turn a stitch at the beginning of a round. I'll knit across until I meet the turned stitch. That one I'm going to knit as if it's 1 stitch, and I knit an additional stitch. So every time you start a new round, the turned stitch will move 1 space to the outside of the needle, and the second part of the boomerang heel is finished when the stitches can't move another step when they're all the way outside on the exterior of the needle. So I turn a stitch, I knit over to the other side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't even have to count, because once I encounter the turned stitch, this one, I knit it like a regular stitch. The only thing I shouldn't forget is knitting 1 additional stitch, because this will be the first turned stitch at the wrong side row, and it has to move 1 space to the exterior of the needle. So one more time, on the wrong side row, I turn a stitch, pull it to the back, yarn back in front, and without even having to count, I purl across until I see the turned stitch. It looks very different from all the other stitches, so it's very easy to find. This is not it. This is not it. Nope. Nope. But here it is. 2 legs over the needle, a funny knot on the back side, so I purl this stitch as if it's a regular stitch, and 1 stitch extra. Now I turn my work. And I continue doing this, so you start your needle with a turned stitch, you knit up until the turned stitch on the other side, and you knit 1 additional stitch, or you purl 1 additional stitch when you're on the wrong side. See you back at the end of the boomerang heel. We're on the end of the second part of the boomerang heel. I just finished a row on the wrong side with a last turned stitch at the beginning. So I ended up at this side at the beginning of a round. Now the very last round, very last time I have to knit is by turning 1 stitch on the right side. So I turn this stitch. I'm going to knit all the stitches across to the other side. I also want to knit the turned stitch at the end of this row, and then I'm going to continue knitting in the round for the total length of the foot, and after that you just need to knit a little toe on the sock and you're finished. I hope this was a helpful video, and see you next time.